Hello. Today we'll be looking at the 5-bight 4-lead Turks head tied in the hand. It makes a flat Turks head. It's good for a coaster if you use like a 4mm line or like this 2mm line. Makes a good decorative thing to go on a frame or just any other project you might be working on. To start with, we want to get our measurement by taking a line laying about 4 inches outside the hand, then go ahead and wrap around the thumb and each finger, making sure that your bottom lobe goes down to at least your palm, and then what you'll be doing is increasing it by half over this amount. So you'll be doing 1.5 times what you've just wrapped in your hand. And once you have that length, you want to go ahead and middle that line, take it and put the bight around your thumb like so. And you really have 2 leads then. You always want to think of it as work this knot. You have one on the left side of your thumb and the right side. You want to go ahead and pull out some on that right side, about 6 inches. That gives you a little extra for your working end as you make your first pass. What we're going to do then is go ahead and, like I said, this you have the left side and right side of both your thumb and then each finger. So taking your working end, you're going to take it around your first finger, and then you'll be going underneath the left side line on your thumb. And it's pretty much a over-under pattern except for one time, and we'll look at that exception here in a minute. But now we want to go over the right hand lead from the thumb since we went left prior, and then the next standing line will go under and then around the next finger. Dress it up a little bit, and starting each pass we want to go underneath the left side of the prior finger. So we're going to the left side line on this, and now the next, this is where we're going to skip that rule of over under. At this point we want to cross both those lines and then go under the line that's on the right side of the thumb. And since we went under, next pass over the standing end is going to be over. Go around the next finger. This will be the last finger that you would go around with the bight. And again, going across, we always want to start with going under the left side of the previous finger. And when you work across, you'll always work each left side and then go back and work each right side. So our next one is here. That's our left side for that first finger. That'll be the one we went under there. We'll go over this one. And then that's the left side for the next one, which is the thumb, which would be under, since we went over the left side of the first finger. And this is where you got to watch it, because your lines may lay wrong on you. So now we've got all the left sides done. We want to go back to the right side lead, which is this line here coming off the second finger. Right there. So that'll be the next line. So we want to make sure that's crossed in the right position to go over it. And then the right side of the first finger would be the next one, because we're working on our right side. It'll be under. And then the right side of the thumb would be the next lead that we will go over, since we went over or under the first finger's right side. And then we're back to the beginning. So we're going back along that first standing in there. The knot is now complete, base knot. Kind of thing that'll stand up, watch for, you'll have like the octagon there in the center shape. And I like to always go ahead and go across, follow that first standing pass just to start that double up. That helps hold that line in place, that it don't drop on you as you're taking it off your hand and sizing it up. We got a lobe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's our 5 bights. So slip that off our hands and get this dressed up and ready to make our additional passes. Today we're going to go ahead and do 3 passes is what we're going to wind up with this. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. and just start neatening this up. You'll want to take this slack out, work it out. You don't want to take out too much, because you got to remember, we're going to be tripling this pass, so you're going to need some spaces in between these loops and bights, just to give it enough room that we don't wind up crowding things up on our knot. Now, you do have the choice, if you're ever working on a project that you can get to the end of it, say you're wanting to cover the end of a covering, if you open up the center, you can open that up to where you can actually slide that over the end of your object you're going to tighten down on. So as long as you can get to that opening, you can actually use this as a Turk's head around an object as well. You just have to work that slack out, put it around that object. Today we're going to go ahead and continue. Makes it easier to see it. We're doing a flat Turk's head here, so we're going to go ahead and start following around this lead. Just being careful that you don't accidentally go on the wrong side of it. If you ever do, you're working a knot like this, one of the old tricks that you could do is create a tattletale. If you've got a long ways into it and you found an area you need to back out, you can always take a smaller string. Like in this case, I would use something like a sewing thread or really fine line, and either glue or tape on the end of it and back out the knot until you get to that point that needs to be corrected. And basically you're laying in a tattletale line that can be used to easily replace that line once you correct your pass that's wrong and pull that line back into place. So here I've got the second pass done. Now, since we have this line, the reason you have the line is you don't have so much to worry about pulling through. You can go back then and this second half follow it to the outside, do that last third pass to the outside versus the inside. As you're doing this, you always want to try to make sure you keep your lines pretty much fared up and in good shape with each other. So you don't want too much gaps being pulled or put between your leads. It just makes that much easier to get it clean if you keep everything together. The more gaps you have, the trickier it could be pulling your slack back out and working it out. Okay, so a little bit more here. Got about one pass left to go. And there. So now we're pulled together. You'll see 3 here, 3 on the opposite side of that pass. And if you turn it over, you'll see that the 2 ends are crossing underneath a group of 3 coming out on each side here. So, and it's your choice of how you're going to terminate that. If you're going to take some fine thread and sew it in, or whether you're going to go ahead and do a quick dab of glue, super glue. I like working with cotton. Super glue really disappears well. In cotton line, natural line, if you did this in nylon or man-made line, using super glue, it really stands out. It changes the color of it. So now when I work here, something different. You have a good way and a bad way, or what I think of as the best way and worst way to work out slack. A lot of times you'll see you can work it out one line at a time. You'll be making that one pass and you'll be building up your slack the whole time you're doing that. So by the end of it, you wind up with a good loop of slack that you're working through. But if you do like I'm doing here, I'm actually working my slack out with all 3 lines in that lead at the same time, so that just working around it. Every time you make a pass and get to that end, you'll be dropping off the slack out of one lead, and then continuing on. It'll be two would be continued on, dropping off to that last, and then finally you'll just be pulling a single line through one pass and dropping the rest of it off. So you wind up with just a little bit of slack that you're actually working through all the time, versus building up all your slack onto one strand. It's just a matter of grabbing each, pulling up, and then dressing them up evenly so their lay is proper and neat, and just continue on around. So now here I am at the end, so slack is being pulled out on the outbound lead that's feeding out, and I'll be continuing on with just the two outbound from this point, because the center one would already be pulled to its position and all the slack be out of it. We just continue on. It's only the outside two strands that will be working slack out on the way around. So now I'm coming back up to my ending end. Be pulling the slack out of that last one, and now I'll be left with the outside single strand is the only one that will still have slack in it that needs to be taken out. The other two inner strands have already been worked down with the slack out of them. And in this instance, I worked from inside out with the three and working the slack out to the outside. You can very well, if you needed to or wanted to, work from the outside in. You get the same result, but you have a tendency to close that knot up more. So if, like, you had a larger center and you wanted to close it up, it's a better idea to work from the outside in. But if your center is pretty much set, you want to go outside or inside out. That way you don't really change that center gap. And there you have it. A 5-bight Turk's head, 4 leads, tied in the hand. Have a good day.